Hey, so this is the telling of my story called Summer Adventures, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Excuse me. So, sorry, could I remember my summers as filled with excitement, fun, sugar candy. The first thing that comes to mind is the snow cone truck that came by every day that was sell Frito pies, nachos, candy, chips, pickles, anything you wanted, you name it, he had it. So my summers were filled with enjoying life as a kid. Um, I spent most of my summers with my grandmother in Forest City, Arkansas, which is 45 minutes outside of Memphis. That's where my mother's from. And even to be in like a small country town, I had the best, like, I had so much fun. Like, I would want to go to my grandmother's every summer. Um, One thing I used to do is ride my bike around the city, and my grandmother, she stayed like right near the railroad track. And so her kitchen would face the railroad track, and she would tell me, "You better not cross that railroad track. You better not cross the railroad track." But the area that she was in, it was like maybe 2 blocks I could go. So I was like, I keep riding my bike around the same area, and all my other friends were going across the track, so I wanted to go across the track. So at first we used to take the long way, and it used to be so much traffic. It was just dangerous taking that way. So every one of my friends was like, "No, we want to keep doing that. We're just gonna just go over the track. Simple." So it was really either they go over the track and I never went over the track, or I took the long way by myself and they went over the track and I just met up with them, or I could just be bad and go over the track. Of course, I just bad and went over the track. And I would do it. Like, I would try to sneak and do it. Our thing was we thought we would get by. Like, okay, as soon as we go over track, like, go fast, like, go really fast. And I didn't think, okay, going over track, my grandma was not gonna notice. It's whatever. I remember one day coming home to my grandmother's house, and my nana came and she was like, "Do you be going on that track?" And I'm like, "No, I don't go over the tracks." And she was like, "You're lying, because I see you through the window of the kitchen and I saw you go over the track, come back past the track, and then went back over the track. So what do you do when you go over the track?" So when she said that, I was like, "How did she know I went over the track? Like, how did she know?" And it just so happened that she was in her kitchen washing dishes, and her window faces the direction towards the track. So she can see, she saw when I went over it. And I was just like, dang, okay. So after that, I used to like time it perfectly. I'm like, okay, y'all, wait, we have to wait. My grandmother's in the kitchen right about now. She's making lunch. So wait till she's done cooking and then we'll go. So I would go to her house and kind of just wait and look. And I'll wait until she went to her bedroom. Like, all right, she's in her bed. Like, let's go to the track. It was kind of crazy, but I enjoyed it. Like, I got into so many things. Like, I remember when I mentioned the snow cone truck earlier, he came by every evening around 6 or 7. And as kids, like, that was our thing. Like, we would go to the snow cone truck and sit around and eat our snow cones or Frito pies or nacho pies. Like, he had everything. I remember him selling Kool-Aid, like Kool-Aid pickles. And if you never had a Kool-Aid pickle, it's pretty much a pickle soaked in Kool-Aid. So he used to sell like frozen Kool-Aid pickles, and we used to eat them, and it was so fun. Like, my summer adventures were amazing. Like, we used to do so many things, and I remember one time we went to the Candy Lady, and the Candy Lady stayed on the same street as my great grandmother. And I was like, okay, well, let's go to the Candy Lady. My grandma would be okay with that. I could just tell her my great grandmother's over there, so that's fine. We can go over there. So we went to the candy, stopped by the candy lady house first. And she wasn't there, but her door was unlocked. And so I remember it was a group of guys with us, and they were like, "Oh, let's go in there." And I was like, "No, she's not here. So why would you go in there? Like, what can we buy? And she's not here." That's not what they had in mind, clearly. So they were like, "Well, she's not here. Let's just go get it." In my head, I'm young. I'm like about 8 or 9. I'm like, okay, clearly this is not right. Like, you're not supposed to just go in there. And my first thing was, if anything, like being in a small town, everyone knew everyone. So their neighbors were like cool, like they knew people. My thing was, I was known to be Jerlene Nesbitt's granddaughter. So that came with much reputation, and I couldn't afford to get in any type of trouble. So I was like, no, I won't go in. I'll just sit out here. Y'all do whatever y'all do. Probably, I don't know if that was the worst decision I made or me just not leaving in general. But I remember they came out with all these snacks, and they was like stuffing them in their bag really quick, and they just pulled off. And I'm like, what's really going on? I'm like, okay, they're leaving. So I left with them. Of course, someone was looking and saw them went in there, but saw me the whole time outside. So my grandmother got a call one night from my great grandmother, Grandma Susie. My great great grandmother, her name was Grandma Susie. And she was like, I heard Tanea was a lookout for a whole bunch of thieves today for the candy lady that lives on my street. And my grandmother came up to me and she was like, what happened? What do you mean? So you stole some candy? You stole from the candy lady? I was like, no, I didn't steal. I didn't go in. I just stood outside and waited for everyone. I said when they came out, they just started running. And so I went with them. And she told me everything that happened. She told me that they stole more than just candy. They stole like money from her drawer. They went into a lot of things. Like, it was ridiculous. And my grandmother was so upset. She was so mad. She was like, why didn't you come home and say anything? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you just leave? And I was like, I mean, I didn't want to go in because I didn't want to participate, but I didn't want to leave my friends, you know? And I was like, I didn't want to leave my friends, but I didn't want to participate for sure. And she was just upset and mad. I remember I couldn't go outside for about a week. I couldn't hang out with my friends for about 2 weeks. It was ridiculous. Like, it was dreadful. So after that, my grandmother kind of let it go. My great great grandmother, Grandma Susie, she ended up volunteering me to go over to the candy lady house to help her. So I went over there once I got out of trouble, and I would go over there and help her sell some of her products and help her make her products again. So I remember one time my friends, I was over there and they came over there and they were like, oh, snap, you're helping the candy lady now? Okay, cool. Yeah. And they just started like taking things, like opening up the freezer. Like, she had this big old freezer. And that's where all her like Kool-Aid pops and frozen Kool-Aid stuff and slushies, like everything she had that was cold was in there. Drinks, canned sodas, all that. So he opened it up and he was like, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this. I'm like, okay, it's this amount. Like, the prices. Come on. And he was like, I'm not paying for it. And I was like, no, you have to pay for it. You have no choice but to pay for it. He's like, I'm not going to pay for it. And you can't do anything about it. So at that moment, I realized, look, the last time I didn't do anything, I got in trouble. And now that I'm actually here in the house, can look even 10 times worse if I didn't do anything. So for some odd reason, my first reaction was to like smack everything out of his hand. Like, I knocked all the things that he had out of his hand. And he was like, what is your problem? Why are you so angry? Why are you doing this? Why are you mad? Why can't we just get it? And I was like, no, that's stealing and I will get in trouble. You may not care, but I will get in trouble. And I realized, I was just like, why would you want to steal from this young lady? Like, she's not young lady, I'm sorry. Why would you want to steal from this kind lady? Like, she was
Sweet.
He was like, it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want. And so I'm looking at him like, no, you can't. So he kept going back into the freezer and trying to take things. So now I was left to the point to where I was feared. Like, it was either let him take this, or I would have got even more trouble again with my grandmother, with my great grandmother. And that would have just been enough for me. Like, I didn't even want to understand who else would have got mad at me from that point. So I ended up like grabbing him because he wouldn't stop. And I just started screaming really, really loud. And I was like, help, help, help. He's trying to steal. And so the candy lady, like the lady who was that the candy lady, like she came. She was in the back and she came up and she was like, what's going on? What's going on? And I was like, he's trying to steal. And she was like, why are you trying to steal? And I said, this is the same person who stole from you the other time. And she was like, so you're the person who stole from me. And he was like, I don't care. He was just angry. He felt nothing. Like, he didn't care. He was just like, I can take anything I want. You ladies can't do anything to me. He just really felt macho. So I remember the candy lady just like sitting down with all of us. And she was like, I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to fuss at you. But I am going to talk to you. And she basically kind of just told us the importance of like being honest and karma and the things that can happen when you steal from others and the actions that can happen and how someone else may feel or how that person may feel when someone steals from you. So talking to him, like at first he did not want to hear it, of course. He was just like, man, I don't care. It is what it is. But I had to sit there and look at him and I was like, do you understand that I'm in trouble because of what you did and I had nothing to do with it? And I was like, that makes me not want to be your friend, which, now I say that sounds kind of corny, but I was just like, that it makes me not want to be your friend anymore. And so he was like, well, I don't want to lose you as a friend. And he was like, he looked at the candy lady. He was like, what can I do to make up for stealing today and all the products that I've damaged? And I looked at her and I said the same thing. I said, well, what can I do? Because I did knock the product out of his hand just to keep him from stealing. And she looked at the both of us and she was like, all I want you guys to do is to look at each other and to vow to each other to keep each other out of trouble, whether that's from stealing or just doing anything bad that we know we're not supposed to do, to look out for each other, to support each other. And at first, we were just kind of like, okay, it's, pretty easy. Like, we're getting let off pretty easy. But no, more came with it. She ended up twisting it a little bit. And when she said that, and she was like, but I also want you guys to work with me for the rest of the summer. So me and him kind of took the rest of the summer and we would work out of her house for her because she was an older lady. Like, she couldn't move. She was getting to the point where like moving around was starting to become a bit much for her. But she would close her home down for some days and didn't sell anything because she was so tired. And like a lot of kids would come to her house. So she was like, in order to stay open, she needed help. So we were like, okay, well, we'll take on the road. For the rest of the summer, we'll be here and help her out. So we pretty much ended up working with her and managing the candy lady's house. And it was kind of cool because we like became like the new kids on the block, like the cool kids on the block. Everyone loved us. They were like, "Oh, she's working with the candy." They're like working with the candy lady. Like, oh, they're in there. Like they're legit. Like, these are cool. Like, these are kids you want to get to know because they got the candy lady hookup. Like, from morning time to about 5, you can go to the candy lady and get your snacks. And then around the evening time, you just waited on the snow cone truck. And then by the time after that, like, it's dinner time. So you're pretty much going home and eating stuff. But it was good. Like, we felt like the cool kids on the block and it was fun. And And that was like one of the best experiences I've had, spending the summers with my grandmother, because I've always had great time. Like, I've always had an amazing time there. And that is my story, of my summer adventure.